Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Don't Praise the Machine. This is episode number 144. As always, I'm one of your hosts. I go by the name Alexander Holland. I'm sat here in a frosty January Berlin, and as always, I'm sat digitally across from my number one pod penguin. He's got to be the one called
John Maloney.
And John Maloney, you're back from New York City, back home in that sweet, sweet Melbourne.
Yeah.
And you had a great time in New York. You said to me you were staying with your dear friend Woody Allen, despite my pleas for you to pay for a hotel, because I said to you, we really, really don't need those optics right now after I was photographed last year
with Woody.
And also after I was photographed in 2015 sharing a Nathan's Famous down at Coney Island with Jeff and Ghislaine. So we are on a razor's edge here with optics.
Yeah.
We don't have great New York optics.
Yeah, it's true. It's not great. And I said, in an effort to assuage people, I said, come on, he's made some great films. Doesn't anyone remember Manhattan? And someone said, isn't that the one where he was dating a 17-year-old girl? And I said, that wasn't the point of the movie.
It was art. But yeah, you were in New York, you and your partner Jacinta, you ignored me. So tell me all the double dates that you and Woody and Soon Yi went on together.
And Woody, just popping around the Met. He gets he still gets pretty good access to the classic institutions. We went to the Met, we went to the planetarium, we went to the Brooklyn Bridge, and
man, so cool. And
I read some lines from Diane Keaton. I played Diane Keaton's part, and Jacinta played Woody's part. And no, it was great. It's nice to be back. It's always a kind of mixed feeling to leave a holiday and come back to Australia. There's always, as I talked to you about, there's always this moment where you get on the plane and you can suddenly, after being surrounded by pleasant accents for several weeks, you hear the kind of twangy sound of Australian accents, and then you're on a plane for 14 hours, and then at the other end you get kind of 2 hours from the militarized border force that we have as our kind of customs officials saying, here's a long list of they talk about, it's kind of this island mentality where they talk about protecting Australia's unique way of life. And as a result, they're very paranoid about you bringing in like bugs and toads and microbes, wood. So they go, don't bring any fur or shells in. And I was just think, oh, God damn it, my fur and shells. And I have to go
to my New York fur and shells.
My New York, yeah, exactly. And I had to run to the bathroom and flush all my shells down the toilet before we landed.
It's true though. You were mentioning that biosecurity message that comes up on the screens just before you land in Australia, and it's funny. It's funny how such a stupid message that part of me, it always makes me angry, but it always reminds me of arriving back home in Australia. So I have this really warm feeling anytime that my film is interrupted and suddenly it goes, a message from the Australian government. Australia takes its biosecurity very seriously. We need to protect Australia's unique wildlife and way of life and flora and fauna. And then it talks about how you can't bring anything in.
Yeah. Ideas. Don't bring any foreign ideas in.
Declare all foreign ideas as soon as you have to walk up to the security official and go, excuse me, I've got a couple of ideas got some different ideas about how society should be structured. They take you to the little side room, beat that out of you.
They go, do you want to do this here or in a private room? And then they just knock you senseless.
But everybody in the world is familiar with that because of those television programs, Border Force and things like that.
Yeah, that's
true. A lot of people that I've met over the years, their impression of Australia, they say, oh, of course, everybody's terrified of spiders and snakes, but then they say, and you get in a lot of trouble when you come in. They get very angry when you come to the country if you've brought anything because they've just watched all those shows.
The crate of abalone. That's all all the episodes are just someone bringing in like tortoise shells and abalone, and they're like, what the fuck have you got here, mate?
I always say that Border Force show should just be called Menacing Chinese Grandmas, because that's just every episode is just some poor Chinese grandmother has turned up to visit her kids and she's brought jars filled with formaldehyde and God knows what is in there. And like medicines that you've never seen before. Yeah. And there's just some fat Australian security force going on. Yeah. You can't bring this. What have you brought in here? What the bloody hell is this? And then she's just like getting really angry going, why can't I bring my medicine and formaldehyde suspended matter into your country for good luck? I brought my luck juices. Let me in.
and that's, I mean, and there was a bit of that when we landed. Actually, there was a bit of there was kind of people queuing, and the Border Force people were being very aggressive. And I always just like you go, I'm very ashamed that this is what everyone thinks when they come here, but at the same time, it's familiar to me, and I'm kind of smiling and shaking my head, going, "Oh, Australia, I missed you."
I also have this this kind of feeling of security and superiority when I land, because I know because I have an Australian passport, so I know that when I land that they're just going to be, come on, get over here, mate, get back in. Exactly. And I always like I walk up to the security person and I make all little jokes with them. Like, I go, no, I haven't brought anything weird in, mate. Just me wallet. I've just got me passport here. I hope I can come in with me passport. Like, you're all right, mate. In you get. And then somebody behind me with a slightly more tanned complexion just wrestle to the ground and put into a box.
Taken to Christmas Island. So that was a strange adjustment, and it's very warm here. It's midsummer, obviously, so I've gone from the frosty streets of Brooklyn to sitting in my room now. Perhaps that's also worth mentioning. People will certainly, I mean, we haven't filmed much content until now, although we've filmed a few snippets, but people will certainly be familiar with me talking about recording from the little closet, the walk-in wardrobe in my house. And because we're recording now and because we're generally becoming a bit more sophisticated, I felt like I was trying to run some kind of like second-rate Radio Shack out of my walk-in robe last time, because I had all this equipment sort of piling up on the laundry basket. I thought, this is unsustainable. So I've transitioned back to my home office now. And I got to say, I will miss the walk-in robe, because without the it's about 2 years I've been recording in there, close to, and without the pretext of podcasting, I don't really have a explainable reason for just spending an hour or two sitting in the closet drinking whiskey. If I just go in there and since says, "Are you doing a podcast?" I go, "Yeah, just if that's what you need to tell yourself, that's fine."
She opens the door. There's no microphone or laptop. It's just you on a chair with a glass of whiskey with your head down. I just need a little bit of time to myself.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there were times where we finished recording and then I was like, oh, well, I'm sort of comfortably ensconced in this soundless room. I might just kind of watch something on my phone and finish this whiskey, and it was quite pleasant. So I'll miss that. But you can see I'm in the home office I've got here. Starting from this side.
Yeah, please go through, explain. And just also, just before you go on, John, just anybody who's listening to the audio version, we're on YouTube now. John's going to explain. He's going to explain to you what he's pointing at. But this is also a great opportunity if you've not checked us out on YouTube.
Yeah.
Don't Praise the Machine, the podcast. Go and have a bit of a search on YouTube and we'll come up. Every episode now in full is being streamed live not live, but it's being streamed post record on YouTube. So it's a good opportunity to check us out. And I've been encouraging everybody, get in there, subscribe, comment and like, particularly the comments, because we get to see you. We get to see people now having a bit of community building in the comment section. And we can't wait until that comment section becomes an absolute cesspool. So go mad in there with your weirdest opinions, your most divisive thoughts. Get in there.
Absolutely. We've talked a bit on the show about the joys of starting arguments in comments threads, and I really recommend it. But also, you might find love in there. You might you might go, oh, this person's really funny, and then maybe you say to them, look, can we take this off thread and have a drink, and then we'll have our first DPTM wedding, which I can't wait to do. Happy to MC that if that ever happens.
Pro bono. You've done a lot of pro bono work. Now you're going to be doing pro bono MCing weddings.
I think that's the only basis on which I could ever MC a wedding. But I've got behind me 3 degrees. This is a graduate diploma in Reiki. This is the Masters of Reiki, and this is finally the PhD in Reiki. So very proud of those.
years that you've got your Oxford, you've got your Oxford doctorate of Reiki.
They've closed that off now. I was the last person to go through with that degree. Got raided and shut down. Yeah, this is the Oxford one here. It's piss weak. It's like these are Adelaide Uni. They're all kind of oldie worldy, and Oxford's just like, we're just going to do a weird flex by having a really nondescript degree.
Looks a bit like it looks like the McDonald's customer service certificate you get after you watch half an hour of one of their videos at your first job.
Yeah, that's
Fryer, King of the Fryer.
Yeah, or a 200 meters backstroke sports carnival award. That's the
It's funny. Your background now looks very much like an expert that would be interviewed on the BBC, and mine is getting a lot closer to being a very obnoxious Twitch streamer. I'm starting to get closer to LED. I'm going to just fill mine with cheap LEDs from Alibaba and fill my screen up with weird tickers going across the screen. And yours does remind me of you've got that look of the guy whose kids ran onto the show when he was being interviewed on the BBC, which was so cute. Yeah. The little kid comes proudly stomping in.
And then good. And then it must have been his wife. His wife, yes, kind of runs in and then sort of tries to go along the floor. So she's outside the frame. It made him seem like a bit of a prick, but I think it was quite innocent. But
I think he just would have been very anxious, but it was so funny. But in the moment, he was obviously speaking about something quite serious. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
Now. But
I guess that'd be hard to go have a light moment if you were talking about, bombings or something. And then you're going, oh, let's take a little break do you want to say hi to the nice BBC man?
So now that we're video men, John, that has meant that I've had to start worrying a lot more about my appearance, which is very healthy, I think. It's very healthy.
It's good.
As one ages,
I haven't eaten since we last did this, since I watched myself on YouTube.
You look beautiful, and I keep sending you little words of encouragement, going, you keep going, I'm really hungry, Al, and I go, you're looking great, John.
Keep it up.
Yeah, just keep it up. I have a running joke with a friend of mine, which I always say when I say, the two most important things, there's 2 really important things in life. Number 1, love. Number 2, being skinny all the time. They're the 2 most important things in life. But now that I've been giving you encouragement, I've been saying, it's fine. You keep saying, the doctor said I'm not supposed to do this. And I said, come on, everybody, let's just have 25-day water fast, and then the podcast is really going to take off.
Yeah, exactly. And then people A lot of people wrote to us during the week and said, "Oh, I didn't realize that John was so much older than Al." And I said, well, I'm 4 months younger, so I've got severe body dysmorphia now. Thanks, everyone.
I actually to improve my appearance for the cast, I for the first time have attempted a tooth whitening regime. Oh. So I went to the dentist. Actually, I got the idea from YouTube, but I gave myself a little smile a couple of weeks ago in the mirror, and I was going, am I turning into one of those people that has like slightly yellowed teeth that people are going to laugh at parties and say, don't talk to him. He's got that dirty yellow mouth that nobody wants to talk to. And so I went on YouTube and I put in, best budget teeth whitening solution at rock bottom prices. And I found a couple of dental hygienists on YouTube who were great. And they said, oh, yeah, you can use whitening strips. And then they said the first thing you should do, though, is actually go and get a dental checkup and get all the – if you haven't had a dental checkup and a clean from a dental hygienist in a while, do that first. So I went and did that just before the end of the year. Got my teeth done, loved it, got them all shiny and clean. And then I tried to buy Crest whitening strips. They don't sell the good ones in Germany directly, so I had to find some weird website that you can get them imported.
Okay.
And so I've bought Crest whitening. It's called I think they're called Crest Glamour White. Takes 14 days. Yeah. I'm on day 5. Yeah. And I'm waiting to see the results. I want to get that real toilet white porcelain that all the Holly weirdos get.
Yeah.
And
want it to look like you've just stuck your teeth in a nuclear reactor for a few seconds.
And so I wanted to say to you, John, now that I've committed to teeth whitening, maybe you want to share with the viewers what sort of cosmetic interventions you're committing to this month.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. A lot of mine is just kind of not related to what you might see on the podcast, but it'll give me a lot of confidence. So I'm about a foot taller than I was when the podcast first started. I've done that thing where I've had my legs successively broken and remolded, and I've got a bit of ab sculpting done. Got some prosthetic abs in there.
Actually,
so my face is going to be last on the ticket, really.
You can have you're very tall with Adonis body. Actually,
original face.
I thought I could give you some suggestions based on some of the hottest cosmetic alteration trends of the last couple of years and say which of these really speaks to you
based on your most serious imperfections. Yeah, let's do that. Great.
So I thought we could start with number 1. It's absolutely been popping off recently, and I think it could really give you that kind of superhero confidence that you've been looking for, John. And that's the Efron jaw.
Yes, I did see
Zac Efron chin.
I did see Iron Claw. Now, I don't. He says it's because he had a fall, right? And he he got complications where his mandible expanded or whatever. But I'm not sure.
Why do you have a giant Superman jaw now, Zach? When you didn't, you had a little weak babyface chin, and now you have a massive square jaw. And he said, "Oh yeah, it's because I got a jaw injury, and then I had to do jaw exercises or something." Didn't sound right.
He's done too much jaw exercise.
Yeah,
I could definitely do with that. A little bit of, I call them jaw wings. They've got to have a little bit of extra mandible out the side to give yourself that
point that comes out.
Yeah,
the Giga Chad point. The points. Apparently, with men in particular, apparently the jaw implants are becoming more and more popular. There's a lot of speculation that former One Direction boy Liam Payne has had the jaw work done as well. Funny story too.
Wow.
I once had very strong eye contact with Liam Payne in the British Airways Tegel Airport lounge. Shout out to my friend Sam and DPTM who sorted out the BA lounge for me on a flight to a business flight between London and Berlin once. And I was the only one. It was just about me, and nobody else was in the BA lounge in Tegel because it was quite a small lounge, and I was just sitting there alone reading the paper, and then this entourage came out of a back room, and one of them was, and they were ushering out Liam Payne, who was in a sort of beige tracksuit, and then he made really strong eye contact with me, like, who's this other cool guy who's in the BA lounge? And he just seemed like a dick. And now I love that he's become a bit of a, I love that he's become a meme on the internet for being a bit of a dick. He's kind of, people compare him to David Brent in the way that he's very conceited.
Oh, really?
And talks about himself. He tells these like anecdotes about himself that are just veiled attempts to make people think that he's really cool and tough. It's very funny.
Okay.
But that's the Liam Payne, Zac Efron chin. Number 2, John, apparently 34-year-old Joe Jonas of the Jonas Brothers. He's a rare example of somebody who's admitted to their enhancement. So Joe Jonas has openly stated that he gets Exomin injectables, which are similar to Botox to diminish the look of his frown line. So, John, I'm asking you, will you start shoving tox right in your head?
Pig fat in my face. Yeah, look, I'd consider it. I'll tell you what, I never thought I'd be this kind of person, but I'm 41 now, and I think I'd definitely get my teeth whitened because I've had mistreated them. I've passed a lot of dark liquors and tobacco through that mouth, and now now it looks like when you're a kid and
dark matter.
Yeah, and when you used to do those assignments and you would set the edges of the paper on fire and sort of char it so it looked a bit oldie-weldy. That's kind of the shade of my teeth now.
Rub tea bags against it. You'd rub tea bags against you. You draw an old treasure map, and then you would singe the edges and rub wet tea bags on it.
Yeah, exactly.
You used to do that with your teeth because you liked the look of pirate mouth. So you would just hold a lighter up to your mouth and rub tea bags on it. But now,
now it's come back to haunt me. I was trying to look like Johnny Depp because he was apparently a heartthrob, and I thought, okay, this must be about having real wrecked teeth, and I don't think it is. But I do that. I do a bit of lasering because I've lived under the Australian sun for too long, and I've got a few little spots that I could get rid of. Not sure Botox would be good though, because I just think, I see so many examples of that where it just looks unfortunate, and I think this person would be better off if they just went with the au natural face and maybe just got a bit funnier or more charming.
I've just learned how to tell a good story with some like decent structure. I mean, the other thing goes hand in hand with Botox, but fillers are the big other thing. So when you start to age, I think your face starts to kind of crevice, and you can start to get hollow face. And so all the Holly weirdos,
guilty as charged.
So all the Holly weirdos get fillers, and I follow a guy on YouTube who I love. He's my favorite cosmetic guy on YouTube, and his name is Dr. Gary Linkov, and he's a facial, plastic, and hair surgeon, and he's great. He's a very nice way about him. Because he is in the industry, he does these analysis videos of celebrities, because of course none of the celebrities except Joe Jonas, shout out to my man Joe Jonas for being so forthcoming, none of the other ones admit that they're having anything done. So what Linkov does is he just takes photographs of them from as early as he can find. So he's got like pictures of Zac Efron from when he was like 13, and then goes right up to today, and he goes, I reckon between this photo and this photo, he's had this done, he's had this done. He talks a lot about nasal tip bulbosity, which I absolutely love.
Wow.
So nasal tip bulbosity is if you've got kind of a bit of chunk on the tip of your nose, which is very common. But apparently that's aesthetically not very pleasing. So like virtually every fucking celebrity, it seems, that he talks about, he goes, Zac Efron was presenting at the age of 16, and what we can see here is a little bit of nasal tip bulbosity. And if I have a look in the next video, it appears that he may have had his first rhinoplasty to remove nasal tip bulbosity. And so they shave the tip down, so you get more of like, so instead
like
of
a
having
Peter Panny nose,
more of a Peter.
It's like
Peter Panny nose.
That's the idea with MJ, wasn't it? He wanted a Peter Panny nose.
Exactly.
So
he wanted a Peter Panny head.
And he wanted a bulbosity.
He wanted a Peter Panny closeness with other boys too. That's what he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. I'm more concerned by my mid-torso bulbosity. So I'd rather that be dealt with than my nose. My nose is not the problem here. I think probably something that I would like, now that we're getting into it, imagine if, just for the sake of the podcast, I got a Brazilian butt lift so that I could remain comfortable on my derriere through a long cast.
Just get nothing out. Put all of your money into like a massive Kardashian butt lift. Did you know? Again, speaking of trends, it's crazy. It's crazy how the Kardashians influenced what cosmetic procedures women around the world then got, and then how they have now themselves is issued, the word I could use here, John, has like gotten rid of. Yeah. Because apparently, I think now the Kardashians have said, or it's accepted, that they've had some of that stuff removed. So the giant ass, I think, and stuff, they've started to have reduced. So they basically led a trend where that was the thing, and then the trend, because they are trendsetters themselves. Yeah. But these trends in cosmetic surgery, like trends in anything, shift. So like I say, 10 years ago, men weren't getting jaw implants. No. So, or at least not to the same extent, apparently.
500 years ago, didn't even occur to anyone. Yeah.
And so, apparently the trends in everybody's cosmetic surgery just shifts over time with technology. Obviously plays a big part in it as well. Yeah. What is available and how good of a job you can get with as little downtime. But it's crazy when you watch these Gary Linkov videos on YouTube. Yeah. People that you just wouldn't have thought have ever had anything done. And then he goes, oh no, they've had stuff done. And then it's everybody in Hollywood. And it's like people who get spoken about as being these icons of like aging gracefully, aging. Like Keanu Reeves. Yeah. So Linkov is like, man, Keanu's full of fillers, man. Don't get Neo is absolutely chock full of fillers. And he goes,
he's taking his red pill and the fillers.
Yeah. And there's a whole one on Jared Leto. I mean, I think those people will take very good care of themselves naturally anyway. Yeah. But they have these little, they just have
at least starve themselves at least. But
yes. And Anna Taylor-Joy, who's going to be my wife one day, I'm going to have to put up with the fact that apparently she's had quite a lot of work done, or at least according to the interwebs, which I couldn't believe because she's such a natural beauty.
And she's also
people
quite
saying
young.
She may have also had nasal tip bulbosity reduction.
She had the eyes separated, so she had the wide set eyed look.
Yeah, they put
the old hammerhead procedure.
That thing they use when you're a kid to measure your foot, that kind of caliper thing, they stick it between her eyes. They steam your forehead so you get so loose, and then they put that caliper thing between your eyes, and then they extend it, and then leave
facial
you there
brace
for days, and then and then you get that beautiful fish bird look that I love. So dear. John, what else have you brought on the docket today to dunk pronk the machonk, if I can sick you?
Yeah, sure. That was a lovely segue pivot. I think we should change the name of the cast to Dutchie's Pivs and Segs.
Pivs and Sevs, pivots and segways.
But look, a lot of my inspiration, as often happens when I've just come back from a trip, is prompted by the trip and also the kind of absurdity of the trip back, as I opened with the kind of process of entering back into Australia as a thing in itself. But the flight otherwise went pretty smoothly, and it got me thinking about the process of and the industry of airport films, airplane films, and how they're chosen and how they're, kind of developing as a distinct genre. So when I was in New York, I don't know that he's a listener to the podcast, but if he is, shout out to Simon. I met up with somebody I'd met once before who lives in New York, and his job is to act, I think, as a kind of negotiator between airlines and film studios that decide on what films they give to airlines. So, United will be like, we want a decent run of films, and there's a complex array of contractual arrangements that they've got to enter into. And I guess
mean the films that play on the films that play
exactly
on the planes in the
so when you
systems.
set up, when you get in and you see a little back of the seat entertainment system, and it's got a whole range of movies there. That, there's a whole kind of industry that I wasn't really aware of that sits behind how those movies get chosen and how they get vied for by different airlines, and then how they get kind of dumped. And sometimes, as with sort of bricks and mortar theaters, there's package deals like, well, if you want this movie, you've got to screen these other movies as well, all that kind of stuff, which is interesting because the airplane is such a sort of nothing space. It's a sort of in between interstitial or liminal space, as people love to use that word, liminal, I've noticed. But it really is, and you don't think about that as being a deliberate choice. And often I reflect on the fact that the kinds of films I watch on planes have a distinct character, and my engagement with those films is quite distinct. So I will get off a 14-hour flight, and you can say to me, how many films did you watch? And I think, probably about 5. And then you say, list them. And I might not be able to list them all because and it's like 2 hours. This movie's going into my brain. But then the credits roll and I go, all right, what else? I've got 6 hours left. What else am I going to watch?
I wonder if there's an emojis for.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just kind of, it got me thinking about that whole thing. There's an expression, obviously, airport fiction. People talk about airport fiction, usually books that are specifically marketed to people who are going to be on long haul flights or long travel journeys in general. And I had a bit of a look at that. It's got kind of an interesting history. So apparently in the 19th century, with the rolling out of railways in a lot of industrializing countries, you had much more common long distance travel, which had previously not been something that a lot of people did. And so you got this proliferation in railway newsstands that catered to the tastes and the needs of people who were everyday people who are now going on these long journeys. And they started to carry these inexpensive books, and they were kind of not very good books. They were often a bit salacious. They were a bit kind of, driven by pace rather than any particular engagement with kind of meaningful plot aspects or character. And so there's articles from that time, from the 19th century in the Times, worrying about this replacing the sort of standard orthodox bookstores. And I read this extract, which is just on the very good Wikipedia article on this subject, lamenting the fact that people who are normally people of good taste would, quote, lose their accustomed taste the moment they smell the engine and present themselves to the railway librarian. And they were worried about them kind of, consuming all of this bilge on train journeys that they would have otherwise not. So, stuff that's digestible, that's kind of, got identifiable plot tropes that you've seen before, that's entertaining, it's pacey, it's not very profound, and it's just kind of enough to sustain you. And I don't know, fast forward to now, you think, well, yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm looking for on a plane. If I see someone on a plane who is reading, I think that person's some kind of intellectual giant, because for me, the temptation is to just surrender myself to, the film selection that's available, and my taste really goes out the window, because I think I definitely don't want to be, I'm tired. I'm kind of spacey. I don't want anything that's going to be particularly demanding. And I just want what I guess you could describe as kind of airport fiction in film form. And you see that, like when I was on United, there was a genre available in the entertainment system, which was just called cozy classics, which was like, you know, sort of crappy romantic comedies that you've probably seen before.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's exactly, and I watched a couple of things from the cozy classics section. I watched Sleepless in Seattle, for example. And
You've Got Mail.
Exactly. You've Got Mail was on there. And When Harry Met Sally, all the Rob Reiner classic hits. And I thought, I wonder if you were a director, because sometimes you hear books described as airport fiction, and I wonder how the writer feels about that, because they probably spent a lot of time trying to write it, and they might not take too kindly to the fact that it's sort of dismissed as this thing that you would, you know, thoughtlessly consume when you're at an airport or on a plane. And then I thought, what about film directors? Are there particular directors who are making movies that you would think that's a kind of airport fiction movie? And sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say, you were on long haul flights as a young child as well, John, because you flew between Canada and Australia. And somebody mentioned something to me about in-flight entertainment that I had forgotten, like so many of us. You forget that it wasn't all that long ago that there were TV screens down the center of the aisle up the top, and that was the only entertainment that you got. There was no computer in the chair screen in front of you where you got to select what you wanted to watch. There was just, we are going to pick a movie which needs to satisfy every age group and taste range of everybody on this flight.
Yeah. Which means nobody's going to love it. Everyone's just going to find it tolerable. Yeah.
And you would put in the headphones and it would just be the one channel of that movie.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to think what that would be like now on a long haul flight to go. Everybody's going to watch some rom-com that's been edited so there's no sex scenes in it, or we're all going to watch like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, some G-rated film that has interests. Everybody, we're going to just watch Free Willy between New York and London.
Just like a defanged piece of shit film. So a lot of people would be, I guess, inclined to just read instead. So it's relatively recent.
You could choose your book, but you couldn't back then.
Yeah, and you didn't have handheld, you know, poisonous rectangles that would give you any film you wanted. And I distinctly remember being on those long haul flights when I was a kid and sort of craning my neck to watch whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah,
Land Before Time, and then just being like dead bored the rest of the trip. A level of boredom that would no doubt prove fatal to me these days. But I mean, so this whole idea of airport fiction being a film thing is very new, because you didn't previously have any kind of selection mechanism, right? Unless you're reading a book. But I thought to myself, somebody I hadn't thought about for a while, whose films I really gravitated towards on the planes, and who I think might be the kind of foremost proponent of airport films, is M. Night Shyamalan, because you know, everyone remembers The Sixth Sense, and probably not that many people remember that many films that he's made since then.
Everybody remembers him as the twist guy. Twist.
Yeah, exactly.
Get ready, everybody. It's M. Night Shyamalan film. It's doing this, but then twist.
Yeah, that's right. You think it's about this, but actually it's about that. And I watched one on the way to New York and one on the way back, both M. Night Shyamalan films. And I thought, I was thinking about it, and I had to look up the titles of both films. Such was the kind of minimal impression that they made on me, because I just digested them and forgot about them. But they were called Knock at the Cabin.
Okay.
And then the second one was called Old. And they...
Oh, what a terrible name for who focus grouped that? Old
Terrible.
Is the name of the movie?
Yeah. Oh, it's just called Old. And I mean, knock at the cabin doesn't really make any sense either, because it's like, do you mean the cabin door? Are they knocking on the wall of a cabin? What's going on? And they probably tried knock at the cabin door, and someone in the focus group said, that's too many words for me to remember. I'll get to them. I'll get to the multiplex and forget which film I was going to see. And I mean, I kind of loved that. Probably off the back of Sixth Sense, he has forged this reputation as a sort of pretty well-resourced filmmaker who just comes up with these ideas that are like back of the napkin 14-year-old boy spitballing bullshit ideas. Like, they're just crap, and the dialogue is crap, and there's always this kind of hasty exposition and twist, as you say, at the end, which is kind of superficially satisfying, but then you think about it 2 minutes and think, well, but what about this thing that happened? and that I was reading a review of one of them, Knock at the Cabin, or Old, I can't remember which. I think it was Old, and it referred to there being, quote, dumb plot holes, which I loved, because it was just like, that's such a hallmark of his movies. It's that you go, that didn't make, you didn't bother to like sew up these various loose ends. But on a plane, you don't care, because you just kind of like, well, it's enough to, I know a twist is coming, so my brain is kind of superficially plugged in. And when the twist comes and I'm sort of mildly satisfied by it, and then the credits roll, I'm just like, well, that's that. Next one.
Classic M. Night. There's a ton of plot holes.
Yeah.
But I sat through it because I knew there'd be a little twist, and I wondered, what's that going to be?
Yeah.
Oh, you can beat him with water? What the fuck? All right, that'll do.
Exactly. What the fuck is that?
They got here from another planet, but they're allergic to. Wouldn't they have done some kind of research to realize it was a water-filled planet, and you probably don't want to go down there? Whatever.
Credits are rolling. But, and so I wondered, where's this going to, I mean, is that a thing? I guess it's not like widespread enough to be worth enough, but I'd love the idea of someone who's not a particularly good filmmaker, and then they get into just this kind of 1950s style. You have a stable of actors and you have an exclusive contract with, Starlight or one of those airline alliance companies. And so you can only make films that are going to be screened on your back of the seat entertainment system. And they're just like mind-numbing bilge films that everyone's going to love. But I mean, I guess the reality is that we're in an era where there's so many films that are being widely released that fit the bill anyway. But it was, so there you go. Yeah.
Can I give you a recommendation film that has come back into my life that I hadn't seen for a few years, and I recommended it to my friend Akil, and he is a film head, and he absolutely loved it. And then I watched it in full alone last night, and that is 1998's Pleasantville, starring Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire. Do you remember Pleasantville, John?
I do. I mean, I remember you being like quite a big fan of it when it came out, actually.
Yeah, right.
Because it combined this sort of, magi realist thing with a 1950s Americana sort of aesthetic.
It's really good. It's really, really worth watching. And you watch it and you go, this is just the kind of film that would come out in 1998. And I found a little clip on Instagram from Siskel and Ebert, the famous film reviewers from the United States, and they both had it. The clip was of their end of year show, where they were giving their top 10 films of 1998, and they both had Pleasantville in the top 3. One of them had it as number 2.
Wow!
And so I watched it again, and it is really good. I was really getting quite emotional through it, and so I can recommend to anybody.
I haven't watched it in many years.
It's made by the guy, somebody Ross. He's the guy who then went on to make the Hunger Games films. And he's the same guy. He wrote, directed, and produced, I think, Pleasantville. He's one of the, he did the whole thing, and Pleasantville's really funny, really entertaining. The pacing's really good, and it's really layered, all of the messaging through it, and it's going to get everybody in the feels. If you are looking for a film to watch, everybody, I'm going to recommend Pleasantville. Please get in touch and let us know that you watched it, and tell me what you thought. Now, John, I want to also say, before we head out of the studio today, that yesterday It was a very important day for people like me. That is an Australian in Europe, because for all Australians who dreamt of moving to Europe and being accepted on the continent as one of their own, one of the Europeans, yesterday marked a very important day, because one of my fellow Eurotrash dreamers realized a dream in a way which we could have never imagined, and that's Tasmania's own Mary Donaldson became the Queen of Denmark, from the mean streets of Hobart to Amalienborg Palace. She's Mary D of Denmark now. You done it.
Go.
I want to say so much thanks to my friend Sarah in Copenhagen, Big Dane, listening to the podcast, because she pointed this out to me, because I had missed it. I was so focused these last few days on my crest whitening strips that I just couldn't focus on any other information, because I was trying to keep this quite uncomfortable plastic in my mouth. So the reason this happened is because the other
photons reflected off my teeth.
The other queen abdicated. So Margaret, I'm going to get all these names. I'm not going to pronounce these right, Sarah. Margrethe II of Denmark. So she bowed out, which then elevated her son, Crown Prince Frederick, to king, thus making Mary the Queen of Denmark. And the previous queen was there for 52 years. She was chilling there in 1972, following her father's death. So she'd been there for ages. And so Tasmanian Mary Donaldson becomes the Queen of Denmark, not since Australian cricketer David Boone drank 52 beers on a flight between England and Australia has the state of Tasmania shone with such pride as they do right now down there on that stupid little island.
I don't think we've got any listeners down there, so that's fine. I read an article the other day about the kind of following that she's got in Australia, and the fact that they met at this Sydney bar called the Sydney pub called the Slip Inn.
Correct.
Which sounds a bit salacious to me, but
in Sydney in the year 2000, when she was there for the Olympics and Prince Frederick was there for the Olympics.
So the Slip Inn's been capitalizing big time on this, and they've got this kind of.
It's still there.
It's still there, and they've got they've got like Danish flags out the front. They've got So let me see. Chris Dempsey, the general manager, says customers often ask about Mary and Frederick, and they regularly serve Danish tourist groups. And since the announcement of the succession, it's really ramping up. They've got a special menu item in honor of Frederick called the El Frederico hot dog. I don't know why they've called it that. I think they've got a restaurant which is a Mexican cantina called El Loco. So they've had to awkwardly combine Mexican and Danish. So they've done their best. And there's also a cocktail called There's Something About Mary, of course. And I personally love the fact that we don't even have an Australian head of state for ourselves, but Denmark.
It's true. So this made me think, John. I'm over here in Europe. I'm very close to European royalty. So, I mean, if Mary can meet a European prince just bloody chilling at the Slip Inn in Sydney, which European princess will I meet this year while I'm off my head on cheap speed in a Berlin nightclub toilet cubicle? And
who would you pick?
Who would I pick? I wrote a few down. Because there's a few that are still single. There's Princess Maria Olympia of Greece and Denmark. These weird things where royal people can represent different nations. There's Lady Amelia Windsor, if I wanted to become British royal, and Pauline Duscret, 28-year-old daughter of the Princess Stephanie of Monaco. So there's definitely...
Monaco would be good.
Oh man, how good would that be? Imagine
you're
you
not
coming
gonna-
over.
What would
Imagine
your duties be? Like nobody cares what's happening there.
just going to the Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's right.
Just hanging out at the Grand Prix all the time. Imagine that. Imagine if I just married a European princess, and then you could just come over and we could just hang in a palace and do not just smoke bucket bongs in the palace. It's like not have to do anything.
Yeah, and just kind of saunter down to the local Monaco casino and abuse all the staff and have a few rolls of on the roulette wheel.
That'd be great if like you come over to my palace in Monaco and I'm just like trying to hook up a bucket bong from a Coca-Cola plastic bottle, and all the staff are going, we can have access to like drugs that you didn't even know existed.
People never heard of. Yeah,
people have never heard of. Why are you doing like cheap bucket bongs on the tennis court?
Why do you insist that we import it from Adelaide? It's not even been grown there. But you insist that the local fixer calls up your dealer in fucking black what's the place where the Hilltop Hoods are from?
Blackwood? Is it Blackwood?
Yeah, that's the
man.
one. You go, don't worry about any of this local shit.
I want
call Dave in Blackwood.
I want Blackwood swag.
Yeah, that's right.
Nosebleed section swag, please. So look, my teeth are going to be much whiter, so that's really going to help. But European princess isn't going to settle for anything less than a pair of real pearly whites, and so that's going to be happening this week. John, is there anything you want to say about a European princess or to the audience before you leave? Why don't you encourage everybody to check us out on the YouTube channel and the mailing list?
Sure, I can do that. Can I just quickly throw in my own plug because there were too many connections for me to not think of it. I recently, in the last couple of days, watched the 1987 film Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I highly recommend it. And I was thinking, gee, the makers of Hunger Games really have got a score to settle because a lot of the ideas are clearly lifted from the 1987 classic, The Running Man. And I might come back to that because the other thing that struck me about The Running Man is you will get you'll get a couple of lines from Arnie, which are classic Arnie lines, which we might talk about because I don't know any other actors that have said, for example, he says in Running Man, "I'll be back." Now, "I'll be back" is a line you get in the Terminator franchise.
Terminator 1, that's right, yeah.
That's right. And then he says it, of course, again in Terminator 2 and probably more recent, crappier ones. But you also get it in The Running Man. You also get it in Commando. You also get it in Last Action Hero. So he's doing this kind of thread-through-y type thing. Loyal listeners will remember that we've talked about the thread-through concept. I won't go into it now. But where he's breaking the fourth wall and just reminding people you're watching an Arnie movie. And I'm vexed as to whether or not any other actors did this. And if you know of one, please get in touch. hello@dptm.org, because I really want to examine whether this is a Arnie-specific phenomenon of just having catchphrases, I guess you could say, that transcend particular film franchises, or if it's unique to the Schwartz.
Yeah, if anybody has any examples of other actors who have slipped in the same line throughout different, the same catchphrase, a little wink and a nod to the audience, which says to them, I've been in films before.
Yeah,
I've been in other films before. And you go, okay, fine. I know.
Great. Yeah, don't worry about suspending your disbelief. It's me, the actor.
It's me, Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator 1. I go into the police station and I say to the policeman, I'll be back. And then I drive a car right into the reception desk. Remember that? Right. I'm saying the same line from then. Again, in this other film. And so get in touch, hello@dptm.org. That's right. We have our own domain. And we have a mailing list now that we're collecting emails for, because we're going to be sending out so many hot and fresh ideas. John can't wait to write a newsletter that's going to be coming real soon.
And actually, I'm going to love that.
If you want to get that hot and fresh, you can sign up right now. There's a very basic landing page that you can chuck your email address into. Just go to www.dptm.org and the mailing list sign up form is right there. And as I say, we are now on YouTube every single week. This episode, a lot of people, as I speak directly into the camera, will have watched on YouTube. We had a lot of people subscribe last week and jumping into the comments, and we're loving building that community.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to see every single week. In my favorite platform, YouTube. And I even went to the effort to hook my old man Steve up with YouTube Premium as a Christmas present, because he was absolutely watching so much Prince live from Japan.
Prince Soundcheck Japan.
Prince Soundcheck Japan. He was watching 8 times a day, and he was having to sit through god-awful ads every time he watched it for 30 seconds. And I said,
I don't want to hear from the fucking net guy every time I want to see a Prince. Yeah.
So that's all of the admin. Is that what Sam Harris says? What does he say at the start of
housekeeping? Maybe?
Housekeeping. That's right. Just a little bit of housekeeping.
Okay.
Just a little bit of housekeeping today. I'll be appearing live. Okay. Cool. Well, John, why don't you say goodbye to everybody today? Because we haven't really worked out how to end the videos yet. So I'm going to leave.
Let's just keep it going till we fall asleep.
After now, guys, we're going. Now it's just for subscribers. It's now going into DPTM After Dark.
Just a live feed of me cleaning up my study from here on. Look, thanks very much, everyone. We loved being with you audio visually this week, and we're looking forward to a whole year of doing that because it brings us closer together as a community. Get in those comment sections, get on YouTube, get on Instagram, and of course, get a new favorite podcast provider for the OG podcast product. We love you, and we'll see you very, very soon.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week at the podcast.